steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. All right, we're back for Definitely the Experts, number 71. And Connor, you have committed the mortal sin, the most unforgivable sin in fantasy football.
Oh, man.
So this is piggybacking. This is post-draft after our dynasty draft, which is a couple weeks ago. And now that we're back from our little early summer hiatus here, we recapped all the rosters, everything, and there's been some moves being made. People looking to trade, do some wheeling and dealing here post-draft, and boy, Connor really got yourself into a bit of a situation.
Holy shit, man! So. It felt like I was living in the upside down when this happened, and it felt like I was completely out of touch, like, in a social context, because, like, it felt like, for a moment, it was like, holy shit, do I just not understand how to talk to people normally anymore? Am I just, like, a huge asshole? And
The answer was yes.
Yeah, apparently. To this day, this is 18 days ago. 18 days of this kind of, well, it hasn't really been simmering, but I've had 18 days, I guess, to process this. I still don't think what I did was, like, it was certainly, I didn't think it was the nicest thing I could have ever done. But I wasn't really trying to, like, get after a guy in any sort of malicious way. I thought we were all just kind of palling around.
So then just to rip the Band-Aid off here, what you did,
Well, hang on. I want to go from the top of this here. So to begin with this, yeah, like you were saying, people were starting to wheel and deal here, and this is coming off the heels of the news that Dalvin Cook is holding out because the Minnesota Vikings haven't extended him a proper long-term contract, in his opinion. So it was coming off the breaking news of that happening, right? And so on my roster, I have Dalvin Cook. However, I also have Alexander Mattison, his handcuff. So that being said, I wasn't necessarily looking to move Dalvin Cook because I'm not really in a position to do anything with him, especially it being June. Like, this happened last year with Ezekiel Elliott. There was this talk of he's going to hold out, and Tony Pollard draft him in the first few rounds of your redraft league, and then lo and behold, he got a fucking deal. So I mean, it's you don't have to look back that far to find a proper example of exactly what's happening. So in any case, though, even if that wasn't even if I did not have his handcuff, it's still June, so I wasn't about to trade Dalvin Cook. Anyway, so in this league, the fucking commissioner sent me this just absolutely slap in the face offer. He offered me Zach Moss for Dalvin Cook straight up, and so I saw it pop up, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, he must be just, like, fucking around, I guess through my context, a lot of this shit that came through in my inbox, I saw through the context of you doing it. And so that, I think, is where I really ran into problems here.
Yeah, it's because it wasn't me on the other side.
No, it was a fucking different ass person who doesn't act like you. And so I saw this trade, and I didn't post it or anything. I just messaged the entire group, and I was like, is this trade a joke? Because I genuinely, on one hand, I thought he was just trolling me. I don't think he was, though. So
which is worse?
Trolling
is worse.
I know, absolutely. It's like, man, you have to think that I have never played fantasy football in my life before, and or do not have access to a trade value chart. So obviously, for those of you out there who may not understand what's going on here, Zach Moss right now is currently the backup running back to Devin Singletary and the Buffalo Bills. And he's a rookie. He's going to be a rookie this year. Certainly is not the same value as Dalvin Cook, who's the starting running back for the Minnesota Vikings. So anyway, things happened, and it was like, whatever. I don't know what this guy was getting at. I couldn't really figure out if he was trolling me or not. And then in my inbox, immediately I got a bunch of messages asking me what the offer was, and then people offering me trades. And so, one of these guys asked me, like, what did he trade you? And then, like, oh, you want to trade for DK Metcalf? And he's like, I'll give you DJ Moore for him. And it's like, well, actually, I traded up for DK Metcalf, so I'm not really keen on selling him for anything except for top dollar, because I traded a couple draft picks for him. And so, people trying to trade for him, other people asking about the Dalvin Cook offer. And then this one guy offered me N'Keal Harry and Jalen Hurts for DK Metcalf. Okay. And so I saw this offer and I was like, this guy, like, he's got to be friends with the commissioner, and he's just being a fucking idiot. And so I screenshotted the offer and I posted it in the group, and I just said LOL. And immediately the commissioner was like, hey man, don't put people on blast like that. And then the other guy who offered me the trade said, I can't deal with this shit, and left the league.
Up and left.
Yeah, he fucking rage quit the league immediately. And I was like, what? Like, immediately I was like, I'm sorry if this is like, so at that point I still couldn't tell if this was a joke or not. Like, I thought it was like maybe this guy just fucking left this league as like a fucking some kind of prank. And I was like, oh, sorry. And this commissioner was like, yeah, it's not very cool, and it's not like that trade was disrespectful at all. And it's like, I mean,
well, hold on a minute. Yes, it was.
So yeah, I was like, okay, I agree with you that I could have probably just declined the offer and not done anything, but on the other hand, that trade also was it was disrespectful. There's, like, you could look at 1,000 trade value charts and projections. Like, there's no way that trade is equal in opportunity at all, even in a dynasty league. There's no way. I don't care how big of a Jalen Hurts truther you are, or an N'Keal Harry, whatever promise he has for the Patriots, who are currently, Stidham is the quarterback there. I don't know. Anyway, I still don't think that offer was very fair. But anyway, so this was a big mess, and the commissioner was like pissed off at me because I was being an asshole. And then Sam got in the fucking mix here.
And now I got in the mud, and I was like, oh.
Sam's being a fucking asshole.
We got Connor on the ropes. Time to finish him. Knock him down for the count here. So I just chimed in with, "Hey, this happened in another league I was in, and we made the guy forfeit future draft picks."
Yeah. So Sam threw that in the fucking chat,
and the commissioner is like, "Oh, for real? Maybe we should do that."
Yeah, and man, I was so close to just fucking leaving the league and restarting. It was like, fuck, man, this is so dumb. And so, so anyway, I was like, fuck, man, all right, I'll try to fix this. So I found the guy, and I fucking DM'd him, and I was like, look, man, I'm sorry that you thought that I was trying to make fun of your offer. I thought you were being, like, you're joking around, and that you were working with the commissioner to, like, send me, like, joke offers. I thought we were just playing around. I'm sorry.
Just kid stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought it was just like we were fucking around and we're just trying to pass the time because we're in quarantine and there's no football. So, like, whatever. I mean, I wouldn't have minded if that's what was going on. I thought that's what was going on. Obviously not. It was a serious offer, and he was personally offended by me putting him in the chat. And so he was like, it's just so hard with the small rosters, and I'm just trying to make something out of this league. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm sorry. And then I was like, we'd appreciate it. Did you say
you're sorry? Did you say you're sorry he got offended?
I didn't say I'm sorry he got offended. I did say I'm sorry for what I did.
Okay.
I did not
but
give
that's how
him.
you felt, though. You were sorry you got offended.
Yeah, to this day, I mean, I am sorry that he felt like he was personally attacked by me. I didn't think that I was like attacking him on a personal level as like a human being. Like, you're fucking terrible at fantasy football for sending me this offer.
Which is true.
I just, yeah. Anyway, I was like, we appreciate having you back in the league, and then he rejoined the league, and that was that. Yeah, so anyway, I'm really looking forward to kicking these dudes' asses in fucking fantasy football.
I don't think I was thinking about doing this right in the aftermath. Or maybe I messaged you this. I don't remember. I was going to send you just a terrible trade also, and then you also put me on blast, because I don't think they know that we know each other.
I think you did. You sent me like Tariq Cohen for Dalvin Cook.
It's like, yes.
Which is arguably a better offer than Zach Moss.
Put me in the chat.
Oh my god. So anyway, yeah, that was just fucking bananas. That was a terrible time, and it was like, fuck. It was really frustrating, I mean, for us, because for those of you that are listening, we had our other Dynasty League that we ended up quitting because they just couldn't fucking conduct a draft. And so, facing the prospect of doing another fucking week-long draft, I was really pissed off. And I was like, oh my god, am I going to have to fucking leave this league and restart and find another competent league and have another draft that lasts a fucking week? Yeah, luckily none of that happened, and I don't know, it seems to be fine now. I don't know.
I'll play ball for hitting the same stadium. What a line.
I mean, that's what I felt at the time. It was like, what the fuck was that offer? I don't know. It seemed to me like I don't know, looking at more of these teams closely, I thought these guys were way above, like, I was punching above my weight because we've never played Dynasty before. But, like, I mean, some of these teams, man, it's like, what the fuck is this comp? Like,
yeah, like, I'm looking at my matchup here for week 1, and this guy, like, the Ross, I was very worried about my quarterback situation for whenever Kirk Cousins gets to his bye week and what the hell I'm going to do there. But I'm not terribly worried because I look at this fella's roster, and right now he's got nobody in his taxi squad. He has no rookies on his entire roster, so he just straight up can't use his taxi spots. And he has like 4 quarterbacks. He got Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Tannehill on his bench with Matt Stafford in the starting slot right now. So I imagine one of those quarterbacks is going to get jettisoned.
Ooh, yeah. You're absolutely right.
So I don't know what this guy's doing with not taking advantage of that taxi spot.
I didn't even realize that for some of these dudes.
Pissing away at roster spot. But I haven't done a deep dive in the rest of the league. It's just I've been watching tape on my week 1 opponent here.
Watching tape on you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I understand the, like, I mean, looking at some of these teams, like, I mean, I'm looking at, like, for example, I guess the Commissioner versus that Orlando boy guy, both of their teams, really, it's like looking at these teams, it's like, boy, you guys, like, what is the strategy here? Like, what is this long-term plan? Like, looking at this Orlando boys roster, it's like Pat Mahomes, okay, Aaron Jones, all right, suppose, Adam Thielen, okay, he's your wide receiver 1, Tyler Boyd, like, possibly, Cam Akers, I don't know.
Yeah, don't know about that one.
Kyler Murray, yeah. So Kyler Murray, Pat Mahomes is a good duo. And he's got Drew Lock. I don't know about him. Brandon Cooks is a big question mark. Henry Ruggs is a rookie who will probably get used, but who knows in what capacity in rookie season. Justin Jefferson is also a rookie playing for Minnesota who doesn't throw the ball very much. And then N'Keal Harry and Jalen Hurts. So, like, the whole back end of that bench and roster is one big, I don't know, for me. All these dudes who are, oh.
Bunch of lottery tickets back there. If any one of those guys blows up, that's great, but that's
too many lottery tickets. That's too many. And the same for this pick on the block. He traded back a lot in this draft, and so I imagine he has a lot of picks in the future drafts, which, I mean, that's a strategy for sure. But I mean, again, like, I don't know why there was so much of it, because I mean, it's a rookie draft every year. So this initial draft is, I mean, arguably more important for establishing the foundation of your team. And future drafts are certainly important, and you can pick up some pretty valuable assets. But even looking at, like, you look at, like, the quarterbacks, the rookie quarterbacks from this year, and it's like, so the number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow, like, where was he going in this draft? I don't remember, but, the number 1 overall pick, that guy, where is he in terms of, like, the other quarterbacks? He could be great, he could be okay, he's a rookie. And then the next guy, Tua, it's like, are you playing him? Maybe not. And then after that, it's kind of like one big, I don't know, Justin Herbert might play this year, he could play. Maybe not. And so looking at some of these drafts, it's like, yeah, I don't know. You get some, like, studs like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who went number 1 overall, I think, in rookie drafts for the most part. But other than that, it's like, who are the gems there? These rookie wide receivers, I suppose. Jerry Jeudy, Jonathan Taylor. But
yeah, I mean,
it's like I'm saying all these names, but what I'm trying to say is, like, that's just like a handful of dudes, like 5 to 7 dudes who are, like, could make an impact on your team when you draft them that year. And it's a big maybe.
They're lottery tickets again, and I mean, this guy's got a bunch of them right off the bat. I have a couple lottery tickets on my roster, but I think for the most part, it's I got plug and play guys, and we'll deal with the future when the future comes.
Right. Exactly. Don't necessarily mortgage the future, but, you have pieces there in place just in case. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so that's the state of our fantasy league. I'm excited to see some more stuff that comes out with it. I was entertained because it's somewhere in these last couple weeks, the news came out that Brandon Brooks tore his Achilles tendon and he's out for the season. So that dude who traded up to get my pick in the second round to take Miles Sanders, woof.
Not helping.
Oof. Sorry.
Hate to see it.
You do hate to see it. But yeah, I don't know. I've been kind of peripherally paying attention to some of this stuff. I've been regularly tuning in on off days with Fantasy Pros, their podcast, to stay in the loop here with football stuff now that things are ramping up a little bit. It's got me hyped, man. I mean, all this, like, stuff that's coming out now. It still remains to be seen if there will in fact be a season. It seems like they're hell-bent on doing it.
Yeah,
but nonetheless,
with all the amount of time and effort we've put in, which isn't really all that much, but talking about and doing the stupid dynasty draft times 2, it'd just be really mildly annoying to have the football season canceled.
I mean, yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with preseason. Something in me is saying that they won't have it at all. I know they've talked about paring it down to 2 games.
Well, they've already canceled the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah.
So that's the first domino to fall.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't be totally surprised if they canceled preseason, but I mean, it might be a test run to see what happens, doing a preseason game possibly with no fans. And see what happens.
Well, the good news is that we have the NBA coming back, probably, maybe, in the bubble, which is a little different. But I guess probably maybe a closer comparison is just to see how it goes with baseball. Once they start up at the end of July, that's cutting it. That is cutting it close for the time. That's right about when training camp would open anyway. But oh wait, now when is baseball starting? Is it the end of July?
I thought it was
It's middle of July.
It is sometime in July.
Well, anyways, they'll start and they'll be traveling and dealing and figuring out how this is all going to go. So the NFL's lucky, I think, to get to look at that and see how that experiment goes with teams traveling and doing the no fans and the social distancing and while with the players on the team. So we'll see how that shakes out, and that'll probably inform some of the decisions that the NFL is going to make.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's in the face of all this stuff that's been happening. The NFL has a ton of time to bide in order to postpone making a decision about any of this stuff. I don't know. I mean, to me, it feels like the closer this stuff gets, the closer it feels like the NFL, like one way or another, like even if coronavirus is just totally rampant, like it feels like they're gonna soldier on ahead, man. Like all this news stuff that's coming out with it. Like it feels like, they're gonna go ahead and do it, and we're just gonna deal with players playing, and people like getting coronavirus. And
next man up.
Kind of. I mean, and it's kind of weird to think about. It's like, pretty fucked. But I genuinely think that there's a okay chance of that being like the course of action that they choose to take. And that's it. It's, a good report came out with Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott tested positive for coronavirus. Like there are a lot of dumb people out there who are suggesting that NFL people should just get coronavirus so that we can have an NFL season. And that's, first of all, like on its face, that's just like a super dumb thing to say. But when you have coronavirus, you aren't allowed to like work out or do anything. So, you're potentially looking at, right, a lot of these rosters getting possibly decimated by this virus. And like, I don't know, is that like, I understand that we're starved for sports and we just want all this stuff to happen, but like, do you really want to see your third stringers trying to show up and show out against, the best and the brightest? Like if your team had to play the fucking Chiefs and it's like, all right, go get them. I'm trying to think of third string people on the Packers.
Yeah, is Manny Wilkins going to be out there leading the offense?
Yeah.
Or
right.
is Tim
Boyle? Tim Boyle and Equinemius St. Brown to Darius Shepard.
Reggie Beggleton. Out there, a stud wide receiver. Yeah,
is that what you... I understand that, people will watch fucking sports if they're on the TV, but like... there's no chance that people, like, if that's what happens in the season and rosters just get totally riddled with coronavirus and people, when you have it, like, you have to, see it has to run its course for 14 days, at the minimum to clear you. So, you're looking at 2 weeks minimum for all these people to be out for this disease. And it's like, 2 weeks is a lot of fucking time to miss like an important part of any part of your team, let alone like a huge portion of it because they're fucking getting in the huddle with all these dudes, So it's like, I don't know. I want football to happen as much as anybody else, but man, I'm looking at some of these like very real possibilities and it's like, holy shit, this could be a total fucking mess.
Yeah, as someone who casually watched the XFL, I don't mind watching third stringers go out there and do their thing. But
just the prospect of watching your team get fucking rolled for weeks and weeks because all your guys are sick is like not exactly a huge thing that I'm looking forward to.
No, that doesn't sound fun, but depending on where you go to college, that's reality. if your college football team sucks.
This is true.
So I've seen my college football team get rolled once. I think it was just once. Yeah, so I can't imagine doing that. Well, I mean, I can imagine, but I wouldn't want to do that every week. But hell, that's what we have Dynasty Fantasy Football for. The other thing I thought was it's funny because like I don't, with nothing going on, nothing to talk about with all these and the NBA and baseball being all fucked up, their seasons at least being all screwed up here. It was talk about, oh, okay, whoever wins it, they get an asterisk next to their title. Like, I hate that conversation. That conversation is so stupid. Because as soon as your team wins, you're not putting an asterisk on it. So, PMT kind of got into this on today's episode where they were very, very much tongue in cheek. Well, okay, my team doesn't get an asterisk, but we're going to hand out asterisks. We're just going to get ahead of this and say that if anybody else wins, pretty much, we're going to give an asterisk next to their title and it doesn't count.
Yeah. With baseball, right? You're talking about the baseball.
Yeah, it was specifically within the context of baseball, but like, yeah, if the Packers stay healthy because they're based in relatively rural, the smallest market, the most not built up market in the league. If that somehow plays to their advantage, no one gets sick, and then they just roll over all these bum teams. Hell yeah, I'm claiming that Super Bowl trophy is legit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I think that everybody's aware of like what the situation is, and I mean, if a guy like me can lay it out like that, I imagine fucking professionals who are in charge of player personnel are certainly aware of the risks involved with playing with a disease that can make rosters as volatile as what we're talking about. So yeah, I don't know. If that's the situation, then you have to be able to manage the roster in an appropriate way. And so, I mean, it's just playing the game with a different rule implemented. Not even a different rule. It's just a different fact set added to the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't agree with all these people that are like, well, it just doesn't count. It's like, well, yeah, it does. It does count. It fucking does. They fucking played it, so.
Yeah, because usually what will happen is everyone will say that, well, this year's not going to count until their team wins it, and then retroactively you want credit for it. So I'm just getting out ahead of that take and saying it counts no matter who wins.
I think that it would be, in fact, even better if some dark horse team won because of the bullshit. Like, it would be fucking hilarious if the fucking, the Bengals went from being worst to first.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Or, what other teams sudden, here?
Like, and the NBA, if...
Maybe Jacksonville.
Jacksonville would be fun. Gardner Minshew, Super Bowl MVP.
Hell yeah, dude. I'd like that. Or, fuck.
Yeah, flip over to the NBA if the Pelicans can win enough game and Zion wins a title. They sneak in. That'd be fun.
Maybe like the Mavs, the fucking Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, get Luka Doncic in there.
What other teams just made the cut?
I don't know, like the Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh shit, the Memphis Grizzlies. There we go.
Champs.
Ja Morant
rolling through the West.
Oh my god, that'd be fucking hilarious. Yeah, maybe the Kyrie and KD less Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah,
team doesn't need any stars.
And KD comes back and they're good, but they never win.
DeAndre Jordan was the missing piece all along. They signed DeMarcus Cousins.
The Nets did?
No, I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh. Did he sign? Because I heard there was his name pop up in the news. Did he actually sign with somebody, or is he just?
No, I think he's sitting out. Oh. He's not gonna play during the restart.
Man, that shit was so funny. Like, I don't watch that much NBA basketball, but I was watching the finals last year. No, was it last year? Yeah, it was last year. Yeah, he was playing for the Warriors. And he's just so bad on defense that they had to play zone.
Yeah.
Which you never see in the NBA, really.
He became a liability, which is kind of weird. It was really DeMarcus Cousins' trajectory in general is very odd. Like, he went from being this like, I don't know, pretty big name dude with the Kings, and he went to the Pelicans, and then after that he went to Golden State, right? After the Pelicans.
Yeah, I think so.
And then it was like this whole like, oh my fucking god, they're just acquiring all of these star dudes. And then he played bad, and then he got hurt, and then he was out for this entire season. I think he was waived.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, it was like just kind of nuts. Like, holy shit. I don't know. And even it's really weird with the Warriors, like what the Warriors are even doing. Like, they were fucking ass this whole year because everybody was hurt and not playing, and they're doing the reload. Warriors don't rebuild, they reload.
Which honestly, this is like the best application of that.
Yeah.
We have two of the greatest three-point shooters in NBA history that were out for a significant time.
Yes.
And they'll just casually roll those guys back out. Also, we're gonna get a lottery pick.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna draft LaMelo Ball, and he's gonna end up being a huge fucking baller.
Yeah, he's gonna be shooting from half court too.
Yeah, and so right, exactly. And then it's like Andrew Wiggins is gonna become good. He's on the fucking Warriors.
Yeah, he's gonna just all of a sudden figure it out.
He's gonna flip the switch. Yeah, and so this like small ball ass team is just gonna be good again. Yeah. 72 wins, easy. Yeah, so that's kind of frightening to think about. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It'd be nice if the Bucks won, obviously, since they were on the path to winning.
Yeah,
clearly.
It'd be fun.
But, we'll see. It's kind of interesting to see what's going on right now with all that stuff. Like, Avery Bradley, he said he's not playing, so now the Lakers have to sign a dude, and they're looking at, like, J.R. Smith and,
they're looking at
Swaggy
the
P.
same four guys that always team up with LeBron: J.R. Smith, Mike Miller, James Jones,
Swaggy P.
Yeah, Swaggy P. Yeah, sure.
Nick Young, man.
Get Birdman. Get Chris Anderson. Remember him?
Yeah. Get Richard Jefferson. He doesn't play that position, but
yeah.
Get him out of the booth. Yeah. So anyway, that news is kind of getting handed down. It's just kind of entertaining. It'd be really funny, I think, if they signed J.R. Smith. Just because we haven't seen him in a hot minute.
We haven't seen him since he forgot what the score was.
Yeah, honestly, though, he kind of sat out of the Cavs, and then he's gone. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens there, I suppose.
So, switching gears, question for you. So, you and I are not both big baseball guys, but are you more interested in baseball now that it's only 60 games?
Absolutely, actually.
I think I am too. I
The
don't know
60
if I'm gonna watch
game
how many of them, but the high volatility that shorter schedule comes with, or the higher volatility from just having less games is fascinating.
I think it was from whatever the PMT interview was the other week with I forgot his name. He was a pitcher.
Oh, yeah, him.
I forgot his name completely. Anyway,
hitter.
Yeah, he was discussing kind of just like the basic like understanding of how this would work, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know, it's gonna be just like a total sprint, and they're just gonna load up the bullpen with their best dudes because they can, and that's a huge part of baseball, right? Like strategically having your pitching lineup."
And that's something that the Brewers, our local team here, have been doing quite a bit of the last couple of years when they've been in the playoffs. Been doing the weird bullpen games where the starter only pitches like 2 innings on purpose.
Yeah,
which is new to me. But yeah, doing stuff like that. So, and then they're getting, I think they get Corey Knebel back from injury. So that's another bullpen arm, and he's coming back after he got hurt last year.
Okay. Yeah, so it changes the game pretty drastically in terms of like roster management, which is, like we were saying, a big part of the sport because the season is so long. What did you say?
Also universal DH.
Oh yeah, that too. That was a pretty big fucking deal. Man, yeah. I don't know what else to really say about it. It definitely makes the sport more. I mean, the strengths of your team are absolutely going to be enhanced, for better or for worse. Um, and so it makes it more interesting because, yeah, I don't know, these like best parts of the team and like these, shining portions of rosters are going to have to shine even brighter and, kind of blow the roof off of these games. And that's all. And I mean, guys are going to be incentivized, obviously, to, you know, hit a little bit better because their stats are all going to be down for the year, given the lack of total games here. So I'm hoping we'll get some more dingers, possibly.
Hell yeah. I'm just excited just for the I don't know, the watching the game. These games are going to be electric because that's the one thing I do enjoy about playoff baseball when I watch the World Series playoff games. Is how like every out counts. Every out feels like it matters that much more because it does.
Yeah.
When you get into a very short 7-game series compared to a 162 game regular season. So I imagine that's how it's going to be to maybe not quite playoff level, but it's going to be the intensity in every single out, every single at bat is going to be ratcheted up quite a bit, obviously. So that should make it maybe a little more fun to watch. Just knowing that the stakes are that much higher on each individual at bat.
Yes, agreed. So yeah, I mean, I think I'll definitely try to tune in. I don't know. I tell myself these things, but like even with the 60 game schedule, like with how it's gonna roll into when school starts, and I mean, I'm just like already preparing myself to drop all sorts of commitments that I've made in the summer here to everything socially, to watching shows. I'm trying to watch all these shows right now because I know I'm not going to watch any TV in the fall. I'm trying to watch all these shows.
Yeah, it's going to be great when baseball's on in August, and then football starts up for real, and then baseball's an afterthought.
Yeah, we're talking about, it's like, are you more interested to watch this? Hell yeah. And then we'll watch a couple of games and it's, football's on.
All right. Yeah, who are we kidding? Man, speaking of watching things like, I are trying to get into things like I saw Aussie rules football came back, and I watched like a video on just like, hey, what are the very bare bones, what are the basic rules for me, a dumb American? And I watched it, I was like, oh my god, this game looks awesome, I'm gonna watch one of these. Then I saw they were on at like 3 a.m. because it's Australia, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch highlights. And I watched one highlight video and I didn't get it. Like, I understand like how they scored points, but yeah, they're just kicking the ball around this field and they punt it into a goal.
Shit. Just lost it.
I get it, but I don't get it. The one
it's
thing
there,
they
but
did,
it's not.
They made a point to say, like in the explanation video, that there's no offside. So unlike soccer, shout out Liverpool win the Premier League. Unlike in soccer, there's no offside, so you can just go downfield and it's kind of a free for all when you kick the ball to another person.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's fun. Offsides is the most makes soccer so boring. You can't go 4 verts in soccer.
No. Fucking offsides, man. For the longest time, I didn't understand offsides. For the longest time, and it was embarrassing because my brother, obviously, he plays soccer, and fuck. I mean, I understood the rule from like a kind of like a I guess I could read the words, and I understand what it's saying in the English language, but in practice I was just like I'd watch like a fucking soccer game and it's like, fuck. It's offsides, huh?
I figured out, like, I understood. I was kind of the same way with that, and then I just figured hockey was the same way, and it's not quite the same. Hockey, it's only just getting back. It's when you can. What is it? The guy with the puck's got to get across the blue line first, and then after that, it's a free for all. Once you get the puck in the zone. I didn't know that at first. So I was like watching this game like, well, why is that not offsides and why is this this is, and I was very confused at the difference between both offsides. I still don't fully understand icing, though.
I don't, man. A lot of things of hockey it feels very similar to soccer in the fact that I've seen a bunch of these fucking games and I still don't understand some of the most fundamental parts of this sport. It's like, I can't, like, fuck, man, I'm just trying to follow the puck. A tiny little black thing.
Yeah, like basketball, I think I get the rules.
Yeah.
Football, I think I know most of the rules. Football's just fun just because there's all sorts of really, really weird ones, like the free kick stuff or the 1-point safety in college football. And
I mean, the couple years ago when the Ravens did the thing where they all held
at the end
to
of the game,
run out the clock.
Yeah, that stuff, the silly loophole with Bill Belichick and the Titans did
that whole thing that happened.
Just keep taking away games and false starts to take 3 minutes off the clock. Or the best rule when you fumble out of the end zone, the other team gets the ball.
Yeah, trying to dive across the goal line and getting the ball knocked out of your hand. Oh my god.
Holding if you're on offense and you're holding in the end zone, that's a safety.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones there, and I'm sure if somebody was unfamiliar with football, they'd be saying the same things we're saying about these other sports. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is that?
And then you see the one video of Doug Flutie drop kick. Like, well, what the hell is this? This hasn't been done since the 1950s, but it's still in the book. You can still do it.
Yeah, this is still a thing you can do. People don't do it because why would you do that? Just fucking doing it. Just want to do it.
Oh, the one rule, like, I don't know. Like, most of the rules, most of my basic understanding and strategy comes from playing just an embarrassing amount of Madden. But, like, so if you get a safety, or you get a safety against you, so you get sacked in the end zone, and then you have to do your free kick after from the 20.
Yeah.
Can you kick it on sides? Can you do, like, an onside kick with that?
With your play?
With your free kick.
Oh.
So you have to, because you're not kicking off a tee when there's the free kick after the safety to give the ball back to the team that just got the 2 points. You're just punting it or drop kicking it. I think you can drop kick it, but I just don't know. Is it a live ball like a regular kickoff once it goes 10 yards, or is it like a punt where it's only a live ball once a player on the other team touches it? I don't know.
Huh. That's interesting. I don't know the answer to that.
Also, I don't fully understand, like, I don't completely understand what the rule is after a punt has been blocked.
Yes.
Because I guess in my mind, after you block a punt and it goes like 15 yards fluttering down the field, shouldn't that just be a fumble because it's been kicked, but the opposing team touched it? But I don't think that's how it works.
Huh. Yeah, there's a lot of weird shit in football, especially when you kind of just start to lay it out.
Yeah, it's just like there's a lot of just like fringe rules like that. Things that don't happen very often. Like 99% of the time, it's very, very cut and dry.
Like it's the the few years ago when there was, I think it was maybe just the Packers. I thought it was a couple of teams though, where it was the if you put your feet out of bounds and touch the ball.
Oh yeah, the ball's out of bounds then.
On the kick, and so yeah, they get a penalty flag for that.
Ooh, fun fact, that's actually not technically a penalty.
Really?
No, I learned that from PFF from my season of service with them. It's just like a procedural thing. It's not like it's a penalty, but but not technically.
Okay.
Even though they throw the flag when that happens.
Interesting.
Yeah, that really doesn't matter. Now, speaking of nerdy football stuff, I saw there's a post in the fantasy football subreddit today. Someone asking if anyone's ever done a historical fantasy football league. Do you see that one?
No.
Basically, the premise is you draft a team, you pick a year with your dudes, and then you draft players, but then the weeks are random.
Oh.
So you can go back and look up, like if you're doing 2006 or something. I know LaDainian Tomlinson was a baller that year, so I'm going to pick him number 1 overall. But like each week, I don't know, I think someone would like roll a die or something, and then okay, we're doing week 14 this week to start the season, and next week it's week whatever, something like that.
Okay, that is interesting. Huh. That'd be kind of a fun thing to do, just to kind of explore historically some of these seasons that have gone by.
Well, then that gets into the into that. I mean, it'd probably be more fun if you have the pool players, but you don't look up their stats.
Yeah.
If you probably have to do that with people you know.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. You wouldn't necessarily play it the same way you play regular fantasy, and I mean, you basically would have to just do very little research and analysis, just kind of bare bones, maybe.
Yeah, like if we let's do 88, and then you just pick up the player pool and hide all the columns with their stats in it, and let's just draft and see how it shakes out. Like, I'll pick Jerry Rice pretty high in the first round. I know he's good. I don't know specifically who won the Super Bowl in 88 or anything about that year, but I know some of the big names. That'd be fun. Well, actually, now I'm thinking about it, that'd be a good way to, I would think you'd probably want to do it with a shallow roster. You don't want to do too deep into the weeds, but just find some guys that you've probably never heard of.
I'm looking here. I'm looking at some players' stats from 1988 from Pro Football Reference. Eric Dickerson went for 1,659 yards, 14 touchdowns. Herschel Walker, he had 1,500 yards, 5 touchdowns. Roger Craig, he had 1,500 yards. Holy shit. They like to run the ball back in the day. But 8 fumbles on that. Ooh. Not great. These dudes, yards. Oh my God. Yards per attempt, 4.8. Holy shit. Yeah, it's very good. Anyway, yeah, I'm just looking at some of these fucking things. Receiving here. Altoon! Hell yeah. That guy.
Leading the league?
No, he wasn't leading the league. He's just on this thing. Henry Ellard.
That's somebody.
He's a guy for sure. He was the receiving leader. He was over Jerry Rice. He had 1,400 yards. Jerry Rice had a close second. He played for the Rams. The Los Angeles Rams, the first installment.
Huh. Never heard of him.
Yeah, I know. I have no idea who this fucking guy is. Altoon was 10th, though.
With the Saints?
With the Jets.
Oh. Wow.
Pro Bowl guy that year, apparently. Yeah, Jerry Rice was second. Eddie Brown, he was third. Anthony Carter. Ricky Sanders. Who the fuck are these guys? Drew Hill. Mark Clayton.
I know him.
Roy Green. Eric Martin. I'm just looking at Art Monk. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I don't know. That'd be kind of fun. Passing. Let's see passing.
Passing leader with 3,300 yards.
It was actually Dan Marino with 4,400 yards.
No.
And then Randall Cunningham, 3,800 yards. Big wait a minute. This guy is ahead of him. I don't know how this is grouped here. Yards. There we go. Next guy was 3,900 yards. Is Jim Everett. There we go. Well, we got Boomer. Boomer in 4th. 3,500 yards. Oh my God. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, this is a good, fun little thing, I guess. Joe Montana was all the way at 12th.
Oh wow.
2,900 yards.
Was that one of the years he was splitting time with Steve Young?
Oh shit. Yeah, well, Steve Young was playing here. I mean, Steve Young is on the Niners. He had 680 yards. That's not a lot, but suppose he He had 680 here, and he had 2,900, almost 3,000. I don't know.
That's 3,500.
2,900.
Oh yeah, I mean between the two of them.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's a decent chunk there for how much I guess he threw.
Yeah, I think I was watching the. It might have been the Mike Holmgren, Football Life doc, a while back, and I like straight up did not know that the 49ers back in the day were running two quarterbacks. They were splitting playing time between Joe Montana and Steve Young. I thought Joe Montana rolled up, was great for a while, retired or left or went to Kansas City, and then Steve Young just rolled in and basically did what Aaron Rodgers did.
Yeah, supplanted him.
But not quite. There was some overlap there, which was insane to think about. Like, could you imagine that happened today where a team was just openly like, yeah, we're playing two quarterbacks?
It'd be kind of fun. I want the Eagles to do that, maybe. Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz.
Well, I guess the Saints are the closest thing to that.
Yeah, and
Taysom
even
Hill,
then,
that's
not
different.
really.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, Steve Young was a scrambler, but he wasn't playing wide receiver and running back. I don't think.
Tight end.
Yeah, he wasn't returning kicks and covering kicks.
Yeah.
And punts and blocking punts.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd get more of it with the Ravens, maybe, but I guess not. Old RG3, Lamar Jackson combo.
Well, we'll get it this year with the Packers. Get the big love package out there.
The big love package.
With him and Mercedes Lewis on the field at the same time.
Man, fuck. That's better. I think that's better than the. Did you hear that the Ravens had their formation with the two quarterbacks and Mark Ingram? It was the Heisman formation. Nice dudes. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Hell yeah, boys. I like the big love package though. That's fucking good. Get the big love package out there.
Jordan, get out there. You and Mercedes lining up at tight end next to each other.
Big love.
You're going to be plowing, opening the holes for A.J. Dillon.
I think this is the best way for you to learn how to play quarterback, Jordan. Just play tight end.
You have to get in the trenches.
You got to learn what your receivers are doing by doing it. We'll put you split you out wide.
We're throwing out, okay, 1st and goal on the 6. We're throwing fades to you. All 4 downs. You better catch one of them.
This is what we put Aaron through. Man. I still have this fucking thing pulled up here. You want to know what Green Bay's quarterback, old Don? This is before Brett Favre, obviously.
Don Majkowski?
Yeah, you know what he threw for?
2,700.
He was 20th on this list, by the way, just so you're aware. If you want to guess,
2,700.
He is 2,100.
Did he play all 16 games or 14 games, whatever it was?
He started 9 games, so 13 games, I think, here. So no, not all of them.
But he was still 20th.
Yeah.
So, okay, now I want to look up for comparison's sake. Who is P20 this year?
His completion percentage was 60, which is better than... Oh, I can just sort it here. Where are you here? 60. Oh, it's not going to... Maybe because he didn't play in all these games.
Yeah, you got to play however many to get qualified. All right, let's see. P20 this year for passing yardage. 2019. Yards.
Oh, whoops. No, it wasn't that. I was reading the wrong guy. It was 53%.
Oh.
The guy
Gardner
below him
Minshew was
60.
20th this year with 3271, so almost 3,300 yards.
Wow. And he also didn't play a bunch of games. Or a couple.
He started 12, played 14.
Okay. Got it. Wow.
So how many yards did he have? 2,100?
Yeah.
That would have put him in 30th place. just ahead of Joe Flacco and just behind Matt Stafford. Both played 8 games.
He was behind Joe Flacco?
Ahead of Joe Flacco.
Holy shit. I guess he did miss a bunch of games at the end. Or I don't know. How many games did Joe Flacco play?
8.
Okay.
So did Matt Stafford.
Wow. 8 games? That's it?
Matt Stafford threw for 2,500 yards in 8 games. So he was
holy shit.
Right on pace for 5,000.
Fuck. Wow. I mean, again, that's how the games change, baby.
Times are changing. Speaking of which, I found this full game footage of Wisconsin at Ohio State from 2004 that I watched like 20 minutes of. Man,
yeah,
that was something.
Is that like fun?
They like to run the ball a lot.
Times have not changed.
No. But Ohio State also ran the ball out of the I formation quite a bit too. That's different.
Hell yeah. It's more watching. See, I think that'd be kind of interesting to see the comparison of stuff like that. Like, I'm sure it wouldn't quite be like today where we just like kind of meme the shit out of Wisconsin's offense as ground and pound because we just have this like perennial great offensive line and this perennial great running back. So it's a little bit of a meme now, but it would be interesting, I guess, to watch a game where it's like more, you know, this is what we do. This is what we won the Rose Bowls on. The ground game.
I'm trying to find here. Week 16. I'm trying to find here. There's a game I want to go back and watch. We had, so it was Christmas Eve 2004. Packers at Vikings. We always do our big Christmas celebration at my grandparents' house on Christmas Eve, so wasn't able to sit down and watch it. And I was just starting to watch football in 2004, so we this will really age me. We had our VCR, we had a blanked VHS tape, so we recorded it, so I can go back and watch it later. And I used to watch that when I was like sick and staying home from school. I just put that on to pass time because I didn't want to watch soap operas during the day.
Oh yeah.
So I gotta find that. One of these days I want to sit down and watch that again. Because it's a good game. It's a Ryan Longwell field goal at the end to break a 31-31 tie as time expires.
Ryan Longwell.
Yeah, that's a. And that was Dante Culpepper, and he was second to Peyton Manning in the MVP race that year. That'd be a fun one to watch. Also, the commercials are just really fun to watch.
Okay.
Everybody getting their anytime minutes from Alltel. And the Xbox just came out, I think.
Oh, man. Oh, man. That's kind of wild. Fuck. I was finding something here. Lost it. Yeah. I mean, fuck, dude. I mean, we're talking about like NFL football, but like, holy shit, dude. I think at this point right now, June 26th, I'm gonna just go ahead and say that I don't think college football is happening.
I'm still saying it's happening because they can't afford not to.
I think you're right. They absolutely cannot. But
it does get trickier when you have when it's well, most of these places are state-run public institutions.
Right. Well, and I mean the tricky part is that you're dealing with people that are labeled as student athletes. You're not dealing with like employees anymore who you can. I mean, I guess you can also make student athletes sign like a waiver, but I mean, I think you just run into all sorts of other problems with this kind of stuff. With the NFL, I don't know. Is it ethical to have players play through this pandemic? That's a question that'll probably be for the ages after this year happens.
The great scholars of our time can debate that for eons.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think it's actually like a great debate. I think that it's pretty unethical. But I mean, if people want to play, people want to play, man. I don't know. You can't tell somebody to not play. Well, you could, but I don't know. In any case, I think that conversation is just much harder to have when you have like these student athletes. I mean, already it was like these big questions of opening up training camp for these schools and stuff, because a lot of college campuses are closed to students right now, including University of Wisconsin-Madison. But, they open up facilities for people to train at and do stuff at. And so it's, are you, you're starting to draw a line between the general student population and the student athlete population right there. And you're starting to separate the two. And once you get a big enough separation between these activities, then it becomes a question of, with the NCAA, and I think once you get like a full, it's going to be really interesting for these folks that are currently involved in like litigation with the NCAA and paying players, especially because it was starting to gain quite a bit of traction, and I think it still kind of is maybe just under wraps a little bit. I think Florida maybe was the state that passed the bill that said that players could profit off their likeness. I think they jumped ahead of California on that. But I think all this stuff is going to provide a ton of evidence and ammunition for the folks that do want players to be able to profit off their likeness. Because once you, separate these two groups of people, it's so much easier for them from a legal perspective to look at this and to be like, well, you were kind of backed up against a wall with, the main impetus being revenue, behind this whole thing, which is why you're holding these activities, and you're saying that these certain people are allowed to do this in order to sustain this revenue that you're talking about. From that, I think you can kind of just like draw your own conclusions or have your own arguments about this whole thing. So it's very interesting because on one hand, yes, colleges do want the sport to happen, and I think probably even the revenue garnered from that would outweigh maybe some of these like legal repercussions in the future. But nonetheless, it's kind of like it's very interesting to see it from this like, lose-lose or win-win, depending on which side you're looking at, perspective. Like, okay, we're going to host these events, but also we're going to possibly jeopardize our legal stance in the long run, or if colleges close down, even if they close down and they still want to like hold football, though, it's like, oh shit, what now? Like, what do we do? Do we stop?
Which I think in that case, if you're a college, I guess if I was a college administrator or an athletic department, I think based on the stuff I've read, the vast majority of programs just don't have the money to sit football season out for a year. So, damn it, you got to take a hit on the legal side and pay the players a little more or at all. As opposed to, well, if you just don't play, then you don't have any revenue ever again. Yeah, that's bad too. That's worse.
Yes.
So players are in a very interesting position right now. To all the points that you just made, much more eloquently.
Yeah, I don't know. It's still, even all that bullshit that I just spewed is like full of speculation, and there's like a ton of time in between now and that. There isn't really a ton of time. It's kind of starting, but there's still, I think, significant time between now and the start of NCAA football. So, I'm definitely interested in watching. We talked about before the show about the situation here at UW-Madison and how, I haven't received any sort of details about what things are going to be like for me as a student next year, but I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit over the last couple of weeks on how I feel about it, but I think right now I would be okay if all my shit was online and I could just stay home. So I guess to expand on that and why I feel that way, I things right now. So again, things could be totally different in a couple of months here, but right now, I think we're sitting at a point in our country where everybody's kind of just sick and done with this whole quarantine thing, and this nice weather is just making people really upset at the fact that they have to stay inside or they should be obligated to stay inside. And I mean, certainly a lot of the people, I guess we'll just specify the folks around here, the like college age kids are all like pretty pissed because their summer has just been, sit inside and hang out with these people that live with you or by yourself or what have you. And so that as a result, I mean, they just don't give a shit. And there's constantly a big ass line outside all these bars on campus, and that's just the way that it is. People don't give a shit, and so now you're looking at you just basically import like tens of thousands of students, and then you also make them take hard classes, but don't give them any sort of outlet to blow off some steam in the meantime. But you have all these bars that are quote unquote social distancing. And so, I mean, I don't know. It just seems to me like it's this big old recipe for creating a big old petri dish of coronavirus. But also trying to so the university came out and they said that they're going to try to test 2,000 students a week randomly. And to me, first, I mean, I have no fucking idea, and I'm sure they have no idea how the fuck they're going to do that. But to me, that seems like just talk in order to try to shift the blame if an outbreak does happen from university administration to the students, so that they can say, well, we tried to test so that we can monitor this, and you guys didn't fucking listen because we got kids I'm just actually the first image I thought of was I thought about Murd House, and I thought about Tommy and how he couldn't wake up and go to his 8:50 class, and it's like, man, you try to get a fucking student to you send him an email, it's like you got to come get tested in the middle during the day at some time, and these students fuck, the only time I can go is before my 11 a.m. class. It's like, yeah, man, you're telling me that all these fucking kids are going to wake up before class, they're going to go get tested for COVID and make sure everything's Gucci on campus.
Yo, remember when was that? What was that? There was an outbreak of something on campus. It wasn't meningitis. It was something. And there was big wow, I don't remember what it was, but it was something big, and everybody had to go, or was supposed to go to, the Shell. No, not the Shell. I remember going getting tested, or getting the first vaccine. That's what it was. Getting a vaccine at the Serve, the old Serve.
Okay.
That might have been when you and I were living together. I think that's when it was, in 16 or 17. What the hell was that?
I don't remember at all. I have no idea. Yeah, I vaguely remember an outbreak, but
that's definitely the year it was. Yeah, it was the year after your first year out of school. And yeah, that was the thing. You're supposed to go to the clinic, or this makeshift clinic deal, get your vaccine, and then they tell you, well, okay, in 2 weeks or something, you got to schedule an appointment and get the second dose. I was like, what? I got to schedule an appointment? I can't just show up somewhere? I didn't do it. That sounded like a lot of work to get another shot.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. To your point, if hey, you have to show up and do this thing. Yeah, a bunch of people aren't going to do it.
Yeah, man. I think it was honestly Bob who said this to me at some point, not terribly long ago. It was, I don't even know what we were talking about, but he used the phrase out-engineer the human in the problem, and ever since then it's like, oh my god, you're totally right. this is what all these like smart companies do, is they just like they realize that like the people they're working with, like the general population, is like you can't count on them for like the absolute, you can't put any sort of responsibility in their hands because they will squander it. And it's like that's what all these smart companies do, is they just like, you know, build these like infrastructure things that are basically like bulletproof, in terms of, you know, like we can let the dumbest people use these things and it'll be fine.
That's what roadway design is.
Yes, that's a great example. That's exactly it.
That is my domain, and that is something that just came up all the time. How do you make this road safe, and what do you do to enforce the rules of the road? More specifically, when you deal with at-grade railroad crossings, that's really in my domain, and all the different safety precautions and protection devices that you at least consider installing or make happen. There's one project in Indiana that we're assisting with in some capacity, because there's a grade crossing, and when the train comes, people on the road are notorious for gate racing. So when they see the lights start flashing and the gates start coming down, they step on it and drive around it, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think road construction is a great example, just because there are so many physical examples of shit that's like literally engineers are building things so that, you know, it's less susceptible to being exploited by dumb people, like intersections being replaced by like roundabouts. Anyway, so shit like that. And so anyway, that's kind of the phrase that came to mind to me when all this stuff is happening. And it is like, I mean, you're placing like more and more responsibility in the hands of these kids that like, and I call them kids, and I really shouldn't, because it's not like I'm terribly far separated from this generation of students. But I mean, even I guess as like a graduate student, like what I will be, it's like I still, as like going to be 26-year-old, like placing that kind of responsibility in people to like just go and like do these things. It's like, I don't know. I mean, people have busy lives and shit to do, and I mean, it's a little easier for me to, you know, look at some of this stuff and to prioritize it. But to somebody who's like 18, it's like, fuck, man. Like, these kids don't even fucking cook for themselves. You know, expect them to fucking, like, right, schedule an appointment to get this stuff done, or to
take an active role in community health.
Right, these fuckers aren't even wearing masks. Like, they don't even want to do that. Like, the like really basic shit. It's like all this like stuff that you're doing. It's, I don't know. It's really funny. So this week I heard from, I think Eric told me that bars are going to continue to operate at their operating capacity, whatever, 50%, 25%, but they're not going to be allowed to have any standing room. Everybody has to be sitting.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting. And it was like, oh yeah, you know, like that's kind of working in the right direction. That is kind of taking parts of the equation out that really cause these problems. Like all these places like W and shit that are obviously like clubby places.
No more bumping and grinding.
No, it's like you gotta be fucking sitting at a table, and these tables gotta be spread out. And so that's, I mean, I thought that was a really novel idea, and something that it's like, oh shit, I didn't even know you could fucking do that. But I mean, anyway, it seems like with the direction the university was taking with some of these things, it's like, fuck, man, I have no faith at all that any of these policies are gonna work, because it just seems like all this stuff is like put in the hands of, you know, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds to just kind of like do the right thing. Like, all right, guys, you know, just make sure you get tested at least once a week and wear a mask at all times, and don't go to these house parties where there's 50 fucking people in this extremely unhygienic house. Yes, stop taking pulls from the same fucking Burnett's bottle. Like, I'm just thinking about the shit that yeah, right. I mean, some of this stuff resonates a little more with some than others. I mean, just I'm very briefly taking a trip down memory lane and thinking about some, I'm not even like dumb shit, just like going to parties and stuff, it's like, fuck, man, I don't know what you can really expect from these kids getting together. It's like, get together in this old dumpy house and stack like 50 fucking people, 50, 70 people in a house that's just jam-packed. Just Corona Petri dish.
Yeah, you know what a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old guys want to do?
Trying to fuck.
Yeah, they want to go out and drink, and yes, that is usually the conduit to try and make the latter happen.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's super clear that, like, I mean, I don't know. You're right. I mean, it's like the primary objective. And, you know, if they're allowed on campus, I mean, you better believe it. I don't know. To me, it's a tough situation. I actually had a meeting with the ISYE assistant professor, and he was a little upset because so there's a policy right now. It's I think it's like whole university wide, but there's a College of Engineering. The dean had a seminar about it where he said, you know, we have to offer both in like the university came out and said if you aren't comfortable, you can take all of your classes online. Like it's optional. So what that means is these professors, like they have to have like in-person classes, but also they have to have an online component that's standalone. So all these people have to have. So this assistant professor, he's like, yeah. So I mean, this is kind of bullshit because I have a class. It's 70 people. Obviously, I can't have 70 people in a fucking room. So I have to split that class up probably into like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 sections. In order to like abide by social distancing rules. And then so let's just say it's like 4 different sections. So those 4 sections, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I have, you know, 3 extra hours that I wasn't spending doing this, and I have to decide on like which days to have them now as well, because like, you know, do I want to split these classes up so that they're 50-minute classes and they're not, you know, hour and a half for power lectures? So these people aren't in a room together for that long. So he's like, maybe I have to do that. So I have class now on Monday, Wednesday, Friday with these 3 extra hours. And then he's like, and then on top of that, I have to create an entirely online class, which he's like, you know, I can't just like record myself like doing my lecture like in class. Like I have to, you know, be present for this like online component, which is what we're doing like this semester, you know, for in these lectures, like the online lectures that they're giving right now, it's like, you know, they do have the option of like being interactive. So it's not just like a lecture recording with like a set of PowerPoint stuff, because obviously that's not really like a college education. It's like you're just reading a book. Yeah, so he's like, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how this is going to work out because I'm an assistant professor, and it just seems like I have to devote an egregious amount of time to this, which means that I'm going to have basically no time to conduct any sort of research, which is obviously very important to like my tenure and like trying to stay on track with that. So I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. He's like, oh shit.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of extra work.
There's a whole like facet of problems that like I really haven't spent a lot of time thinking about because I'm not a professor.
Bummer.
Yeah. I don't know. In any case. Anyway, do we want to talk about NASCAR at all? Do we want to talk about that? We're already hour 18 in here.
Sure. Otherwise, I have a lighter story.
Do a lighter story.
Yeah, the whole NASCAR thing that's kind of happened here with just very briefly, I guess. There was a news allegedly, and they looked at it and they released the picture this weekend. Yep.
Yeah, that's a news.
Was, or at least I understand at the very least why someone would walk in there and say, "That's a news."
Yeah.
So all the reactions I think what NASCAR did in response to that was appropriate.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. I guess we will talk a little bit about this because I do just want to say that somebody on the subreddit did post a really good comment about it because social media has just been off the wall with this whole story, but somebody did post where it was like, you know what? Even if this news was not placed in this time frame right now, it is really like the best possible set of outcomes that you could have hoped for. Like,
Agreed.
Bubba Wallace was calm, composed, and he didn't get, overtly angry and bothered by what happened. NASCAR stepped in and immediately condemned what happened and opened this entire investigation to the FBI. All of the NASCAR participants were behind Bubba Wallace the whole time. There's a huge showing of support for him. And then they found that there was nothing, which meant that all these people who were showing support weren't being hypocritical at all. There was nobody hiding anything from Bubba Wallace that we know of. So
just to clarify, it wasn't that there was nothing, there's no intent specifically towards Bubba Wallace.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
It was news, but
yeah, things have come out recently.
Since, like, November.
Yeah, right. It still seems like it's a bit of an ongoing investigation, and there's a lot of things I think that need to be found out about it still. So we're not quite closing the book on this and saying it's the greatest thing that could have happened, but it did seem like it was the best. Yeah, like I was saying, the outcomes I think were a lot more positive than what you'll find on social media, like in a realistic sense. So anyway, I saw that comment and it kind of rung true for me, and I liked that.
Yeah, and the reaction on Sunday, whenever they started the race, before it got delayed or rained or whatever. Yeah, it was Monday. They did that whole display in support, and that's cool. That's great. And since in the last couple of weeks, going back to the Atlanta race when there was the address that NASCAR President Steve Phelps made before they started the race, and then they have outlawed the Confederate flag. NASCAR's very, very clearly, very loudly planted their flag in where they're standing on this whole thing, and they're taking tangible steps to make improvements and make the sport more inclusive, which is great. That's all good. That's not diminished at all by the outcome of the investigation, which as much as some people, some of NASCAR's stereotypical base that are very much out there would want to push back against, but yeah, it's cool to see that.
Yeah. It has been wild to watch NASCAR handle all this stuff that's happening, and a lot of people have been. I guess we are talking about fucking NASCAR.
Yeah, we're doing it now.
It has been really cool, and I don't necessarily want to just compare it to other sports, but I don't really see another way around it. Just the way that they've been handling these kinds of things, apart from other franchises, has been pretty remarkable. From a sport that traditionally people have held in a pretty white Southern background sort of thing. There are a lot of not so great connotations with white supremacy and NASCAR, and it really does seem like they've been breaking the mold a ton with the last couple of weeks and the actions that they've taken, and they haven't hesitated really to do any of this stuff. It's just like, you know what, we're doing this, which is a pretty stark contrast from some of the stuff they've tried to do in the past, like the Confederate flag trade-in program thing that didn't quite work out. So far, these last couple of weeks have been pretty forthright about what they're doing, and they've done it, and they've just said, you know what, if you don't like it, then you can leave.
Yeah.
Which I think
people have announced that they're not watching. They want nothing to do with it ever again.
Yeah, and they just don't give a shit, and it's awesome.
At least we know where everybody stands.
Right, exactly. So it's been pretty cool, and I did see, like, I think it was just like a tweet where it was like, you know what, I think this is really great because I think a lot of people are going to be able to maybe come to the sport as like a new fan or a person maybe interested in watching it before, but because of the connotations associated with it, we're probably, I'm not necessarily going to blast it from the rooftops that I watch fucking NASCAR because people associate it with white people trailer trash.
That's definitely how I felt about it.
Yeah.
I definitely had those feelings where it's kind of like, I watch NASCAR, but I'm not. I've definitely tiptoed and felt kind of uncomfortable announcing that publicly.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they're doing what they're doing so that, folks that are bigger fans like yourself, even, people who are like Vinny who stock car race. Mm-hmm. He hasn't, I don't think, ever been timid about his support for racing, but it's people like that. You and Vinny are like, you're good people and people that I think could probably be better associated with the sport, like people that are capable of critical thinking, and you can watch this sport without being afraid that the fans are gonna be dumb as hell. And that's not to say that like that's not the case for any other sport, because let me be clear that there's a lot of that in every sport. There's a lot of that in football. There's a lot of that in everything. But yeah, in any case, I certainly have been trying to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in NASCAR without, I used to watch it back in the day as a kid with my dad, but I kind of stopped once it was like, oh shit, the sport's kind of really closely tied to white trash. So anyway, I did
that image is, the white trash image, aside from there's some racial connotations with that, but at the end of the day it still is.
Yeah,
they have to be in a derogatory way or a non-inclusive way, but sitting around listening to country music, drinking beer, and watching the cars go by, it is what it is.
Right. It has its roots in the South, and right. It's not to say that whole blanket image of white trash is necessarily, totally racist, but right. I understand. I guess what you're saying.
Yeah, and its roots in the South. I don't know how familiar are with the origins of stock car racing in NASCAR.
Well, so I did actually
do some research and
back
into all the bootleggers and all that stuff.
Yeah. So this is
Prohibition time.
I guess we could. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get the fuck into this. So, last week I did some research on. I was trying to find some research on the roots of the Confederate flag in NASCAR, because there was an article that I read that was, NASCAR needs to do more besides just banning the Confederate flag. And I was like, okay, well, this seems like a hit piece that is maybe just opinionated. But they went into a pretty good historical context analysis of like why the Confederate flag is problematic with NASCAR specifically. Besides it just like I thought it just had to deal with the fact that stock car racing was something that emerged in the South, like Daytona Beach, and like what you were saying before, where it had its origins in bootlegging during the Prohibition in order to outrun the police, and then after the repeal of Prohibition, there was still a business for that, running moonshine from people who were trying to, tax those goods. So in places like North Carolina, like that stuff was happening.
Yeah, and that's where the NASCAR hub is today. Almost all the teams are based out of the Charlotte area, and so yeah, the Prohibition ends, and then you got all these souped up cars. So then stock car racing came from all right, well, we got all these fast cars. Who's got the fastest? And that was the very bare bones origin of stock car racing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so it in any case, I'm just looking for the file that I had on that. So let's see here. Here it is. Link. Click. So right. So the NASCAR was sort of came up out of what we were talking about with stock cars being souped up here to outrun the cops, and then people in this region kind of took a liking to stock car racing here. And as it was coming up here in the 30s, Daytona Beach, Florida, there's a man here, Bill France.
Big Bill France.
Big Bill France. So he saw the opportunity to, it wasn't very organized how it was happening. So he saw an opportunity to, create an organization that could rival what was going on in Europe. Like racing was already big over in Europe. So he saw an opportunity to kind of do an American thing here, and he formed the National Championship Stock Car Circuit, the NCSCC, which in my opinion sort of has these weird League of Nations vibes to it. It's the precursor here to NASCAR.
Precursor to United Nations.
Yeah. So right. So he kind of formed that, and shortly thereafter, it was renamed National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, otherwise known as NASCAR. So that was in 1948. So around this same time, so this is kind of interesting. We're kind of going to take a little history lesson here. The Association of the Confederate Flag actually has some deep connotations with, I don't know if you're familiar with like the name shift of Republicans and Democrats.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so a lot of people talk about Republicans and Democrats. The names that they've used for these political parties haven't always necessarily been associated with the political platforms that they have today. Like Democrats, are associated with liberal-minded, generally people, and Republicans are, known as conservative individuals. And so back around the Civil War, those associations were flipped. So Democrats were considered the conservative party, and Republicans were considered the more progressive, or I shouldn't say progressive, but just liberal party. So Democrats, they were the political party that generally vied for slavery, and the Republicans were in favor of abolition at the time. And so in this, there was a man, his name was William Jennings Bryan, and he was a Democrat. So he was a conservative. However, he was a Democrat's presidential candidate for several, I want to say 4 times, but that could be wrong. Anyway, he was a main leader in the party. He was never obviously elected president, but he was their presidential candidate for a number of years. And he actually had a number of agreements with the then Republican Party. And it went into a lot of the federal assistance programs that were created in the wake of Reconstruction in the South. So these federal programs were created in order to revitalize the South, who was completely decimated because obviously all of their slave labor is gone, right? So they need these federal programs in order to basically kickstart their program back up. And he liked all that stuff. So this was a pretty big departure from the Democrats' platform. And I mean, if you can think about it in today's context, I mean, that'd be something like, I don't want to use President fucking Trump, but like, a Republican candidate coming out and saying that they were in favor of like Obamacare. Like we'll say, I don't know, like Mitt Romney. coming out and saying I like Obamacare. I think it's a good idea. We should fucking do that. Or coming out and saying even more drastically, like, I think we should adopt Bernie Sanders' healthcare for all plan. Like, we'd all be like turning our heads and like, what the fuck is that? What is this coming together moment? And so that's kind of what happened at the time. And so in the wake of this, there was a Southern Democrat. His name was Strom Thurmond, and he didn't like what was going on at all, especially because this guy was their presidential candidate. So he actually splintered off and formed a section of the South, and they were called, I think, the Strong South. Anyway, this contingent
this is after the Civil War?
Yes, this is after the Civil War. This is like in the 20s. So
1920s.
Correct. Yeah, so this is a number of years after that, but before all this NASCAR stuff is kind of happening.
Okay.
So Strom Thurmond formed this section of states and like collectively who shared these ideas, the Strong South, and today it still actually exists as the centerpiece of like the Republican stronghold, basically the southern states that are generally associated as red states. And he formed a political party actually that was called the Dixiecrats. So the Dixiecrats they wouldn't actually last for very long, but the Dixiecrats would actually eventually morph into what's now known as the Republican Party. And that's kind of how that shift happened, is because the general, like William Jennings Bryan, shifted his policies to kind of coalesce with the Republican Party, which caused a major power dynamic to change. And these Democrats then didn't want to be associated with the actual Democratic platform, and they wanted to be known as something else. And so this is where NASCAR comes in, actually, because Strom Thurmond was campaigning. Basically, the entire Dixiecrat platform was all about slavery. So the Dixiecrat platform, it was extremely racist. There's no doubt about that. Their main platform item was that we want segregation. So sorry, it's not about slavery. They were very pro-segregation. They were adamant about that. Like, that was their main thing, is that, we want to be separate. And this is actually where the Confederate flag was adopted as a cultural symbol of the South, is with the Dixiecrat Party and Strom Thurmond. And so Strom Thurmond saw an opportunity to sort of form this whole Southern heritage image with what he was doing, with this flag, and with NASCAR, actually. So he actually approached Bill France and said, hey, I see that you're trying to start this whole NASCAR thing, and I think it would really get off the ground if you associated it with this image of Southern heritage. So what I want you to do is I want you to fly the Confederate flag at your races, because I think that'll tie that with Southern heritage, and then that with us, the Dixiecrat Party. And that's kind of how that started. And then from there, obviously, the Dixiecrat Party dissolved, and, I don't know, I won't really get into a whole catch-up of history, but that's why, and it's all laid out in this article, and it was kind of very interesting to read, because it was when some of these things happened, like Brian France, descendant of Bill France, endorsed Donald Trump. A lot of people came out and said that was something that, it was very reminiscent of what Bill France did in the past. And, reading all these things, it's everything sort of clicked together, and all these things made a lot more sense once you read the historical context behind these things. Because, like I said at the beginning, on the surface level, I just thought, this whole flag thing is just I don't know, it's a ridiculous Southern. I don't understand it because I'm not Southern, and I just think it's this Southern thing that people do. But there was obviously a ton more to that. Like, there was a ton of things that people consciously did and decisions that people made, and that's why there's such a deep connotation, I guess, with the flag and NASCAR specifically.
That's that's very interesting. I didn't know all of that, all the deep history of all that stuff. I knew there was associations with the Confederate flag. There's a good picture on Reddit that someone posted. It was just to provide some interesting context for the Bubba Wallace Black Lives Matter 43 car paint scheme he ran at Martinsville a couple weeks back, juxtaposed against a Richard Petty car, same 43 car, same car owner, from I don't know what year it was, a while back, but I believe after he won the the Rebel 500 at Darlington, with the Confederate flag. So obviously the name of the race, Rebel 500, that's obviously deeply tied, and then also Confederate flag tied. So that was really interesting juxtaposition to see that, those two images side by side.
Wow.
There's also all the things that have been, I don't know if I want to say well documented, that might be strong, but things that have been documented about the only other, I believe he's the only African American black driver who's won a NASCAR race, and that was Wendell Scott back a while back, and he won a race in Florida, I believe, and that did not go over well, to say the least, and he never actually got a victory lane ceremony. I don't think they even got the trophy. Because crowd wasn't having it because of the color of his skin. Yeah, I won a race in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh.
Back in 1963. So that was a good ways back. So I think there's been some stuff out there. I think his family, because he is since deceased, passed away in 1990. But I think his family's been asking for a symbolic victory lane ceremony that he never got back in the 60s.
Oh.
Which that would be a nice olive branch to Wendell Scott, and the importance of him as the first African American to win a NASCAR race.
Absolutely.
So that I would be watching for that to happen. And then I think, to your point a little bit earlier, there was the article that you read that, banning Confederate flag is good, but there needs to be more. I don't think anyone's necessarily disagreeing from that. NASCAR should do more, but I think it's noteworthy to celebrate what they've done so far, and then also at the same breath, it's not mutually exclusive that, the common thing that people are throwing around there, it's like, well, they haven't solved racism just by banning a flag. The two aren't mutually exclusive. I think you can celebrate taking one step, especially a symbol that's been associated with the sport as long as it has been, shedding that image, or at least beginning to distance yourself from that. And it's still acknowledging that there's plenty more to do.
Totally. I mean, right, like you're saying, it's certainly not something that when you have. I mean, I just looked up this image of Richard Petty and the Confederate flag, and this is nuts. You can't just totally disassociate yourself from these things that have been so closely tied to this activity for such a long period of time. So, I mean, you're right. It is worthy to celebrate what's been happening, because I mean, that's obviously what we were doing before we just started talking about all this stuff. Is they've taken a lot of great steps in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, I mean, ultimately it's just going to come down to how they react to things in the future, right? I mean, taking steps when things come up and handling it the exact same way they have been these last couple of weeks. I mean, that's how these things get done, right? It's not something you can just, even over like 1 or 2 seasons, completely solve in any sort of capacity. I mean, it's something that's going to take decades of years. So
yeah, it's a culture change. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right, exactly.
Now, when it's been ingrained in the sport for, in some capacity at least, for well over 50 years.
Right. So all that NASCAR can do is play their part in that, right? Like you're saying, it's a societal thing. So NASCAR can do everything in its power to do what it's got to do, but ultimately it's the winds of change have to kind of blow over society in general. I mean, I know I have just seen, like, it's kind of wild because, like, in in the wake of everything that's been happening, I mean, I've just like, I don't necessarily subscribe to things. It's just like what's on social media, and I've just tried to be, I guess, I'm trying very hard not to just like turn off and ignore my social media just because there's a lot of stuff on there that's uncomfortable right now. But I mean, I've just seen like a lot of crazy shit happening on like these things, and it's great that we live. One of the, I guess I shouldn't just say it's great, but it's one of the benefits of living in the age of information right now, where everybody has a phone and a camera. I mean, you can just see like incidents of this stuff that happens, and it's just peppering the entire internet with all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you and I are pretty rational individuals, but there's a fuck ton of people out there that are just not. And watching some of these videos, it's like, holy shit. And seeing some of these things, it really does put things into perspective. Like, holy fuck, man, we got a long way to go. We got some fucking work to do. Anyway,
just one last point to finish on Richard Petty. That picture was from however many years ago. But even in 2016, when a lot of the Colin Kaepernick stuff was, he made it very clear what his position on the anthem protests were, and he was not supportive. Has since done a 180 on that pretty much, and he's been very supportive of the Black Lives Matter movement, especially with his driver driving the 43 car. Being the only black driver in NASCAR, and that's been very cool to see him do a kind of a 180 on his thoughts on the whole movement. Someone who's the greatest driver in NASCAR history.
Yeah, and I mean, stuff like that is very impactful.
Mm-hmm. He's absolutely an ambassador for the sport. And the other thing that was interesting that I've seen a little bit, there's been talk since this whole thing's gone down. Apparently, Bubba Wallace and the 43 team and Richard Petty Motorsports, they're a single car operation. They're typically not competing for wins week in and week out. They've been a little faster this year, but one thing that's going to help with that is getting additional sponsorship revenue, and apparently they're saying that the phone's been ringing off the hook, and there's a lot of new interested sponsorship partners for that team, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, that's actually something I asked Brandon about because I was interested. I was like, man, I obviously don't really follow this sport very well. I was like, can you just tell me like how like Bubba Wallace like performs? Is he a guy that wins? And he's like, well, I mean, I don't know, he doesn't really win, but I mean, he's a guy who's like middle tier. But he did mention, he was like, I mean, a big part of it is like being able to consistently win is like very closely tied with the financial support that you get. And that's going to change a whole hell of a lot in wake of what's going on. I mean, he's just the focal points of all this stuff, and all these people are going to be hopping at the chance to be tied to him. Mm-hmm. So now, I mean, with all sorts of new financial resources, I mean, you can just bolster all kinds of things from a behind-the-scenes perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's definitely not going to be an overnight thing. That's probably we're not going to see the effects of that this year. But long term, if he stays with Rich Petty Motorsports in the 43 car for a number of years, there's a chance that
I'm gonna be racing a fucking rocket ship out there. Bubba Wallace in the rocket ship.
Yeah, the thing if they have some additional resources at their disposal, if they pour some of that into because the Gen, I don't know, is it Gen 5 or Gen 6, the next generation car, they're doing a full rebuild of the rule book in the car. It was supposed to be next year, but that's gotten pushed back to 2022 in light of the pandemic, and with limited time in the shop and different development thing and testing things haven't been able to happen. But if they can pour some of those resources into building it, be coming out in 2022 with that new car, I don't know. There's a chance that kind of reshuffles the deck in terms of who's performing well week in and week out. Because right now it's the same handful of teams. It's the Penske Fords, it's Stewart Haas, it's Hendrick, and the Chevys, and Joe Gibbs and the Toyotas. It's really those four teams that are competing for wins week in, week out. Anybody else up there is, a little bit of a surprise. They happen every once in a while, but not too terribly often.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway,
That's NASCAR, baby.
Well, that's NASCAR. Hell yeah.
Well, to end on a lighter note, so I was down by my parents for Father's Day, and my dad and I, as we often do, we went to the Amtrak station in our house, and we're just gonna go sit there and do nerdy train things and just watch them go by. Well, anyways, there was a train coming from Chicago, which things I do not want to be on right now is an airplane. A train is very similar. I don't want to be riding that. I was surprised actually when the thing came in how many people were on it. But anyways, before it showed up, before the Hiawatha from Chicago showed up, this guy was there, and he shows up, and the way the platform's set up, he's on the other side. There's a 2 towers and an overhead bridge, pedestrian bridge. So instead of crossing the actual tracks himself, you go up and over. Safety improvement kind of ties back to what we were talking about before with people in highway driving on the road. So that was one thing. There's a fence between the 2 tracks, so you go up and over. Anyways, this guy shows up. He's there to pick up his wife. He's like, hey, which way is the train coming from? Oh, it's on this side, the other side away from where he is. You got to go up and over. So he was struggling to figure that out, which I was like, all right. So this guy comes over, and he's just chatting us up and down, waiting for this train to come, pick up his wife, which, I don't know. Train people are eccentric, but I don't think he was an actual train guy. So he's telling us that I'll just put it out there right now. This is the horniest 6-year-old man I've ever met in my life.
Oh,
he
shit.
said, yep, I got this girl. She down in Kansas City. She is, I like them Kansas City girls.
Fuck.
Find himself a honey down in Kansas City, and I'm moving her up here, and she's 3 months pregnant, and man, yeah, this is when his age comes up. Yeah, I'm 60 years old. Whew, I still got it. My package still works.
Fuck.
And I'm sitting there like looking at my dad like, what are we doing? What is going on here? Come on, Dad. What a way to start a conversation with strangers. Just talking about how you're still able to rear a child.
Still trying to fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, oh, you got any other kids? Like, yep, my oldest just turned 40.
What?
So,
whoa.
So I don't know.
The old 40-year age gap in siblings.
Yeah, so our guy Derek leads an interesting life. Never a dull moment for him, I'm sure.
Fuck, dude.
So that was noteworthy. Usually when we go to the train station, that doesn't happen.
Did this time. Found Derek.
Time. He was, yep. He had this whole spiel where he was talking about, as long as you know where the North Star is, you got your north, you got your east, you got your west. He went on for a couple minutes talking about the North Star and the cardinal directions. I've never heard someone say so many words and talk so much, but say absolutely nothing. So, these are my people.
These are the train people.
These are the train people. God,
Fuck.
have you ever been to a model train show?
No, man.
Well, it's interesting people watching.
I bet.
If nothing else. Because the demographics is like...
I like to imagine everybody shows up in those fucking overalls and that little hat.
More people do than you would think.
Shit.
It's the age range for model train is like 9 and under, and then 65 plus. No middle ground. Only middle ground is just the parents of the 9-year-olds.
Fuck. And then you're there.
And me, 24, rolling around there by myself.
Also middle ground. Oh my god. Wow.
That's one of these days I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to one of those things and just walk around and look at this guy's setup and be like, this ain't right. This is not realistic at all. And just tear this guy's world apart.
What is this, a train for ants?
What's this? What subdivision you modeling here? How much in the real world do you see the main line going through a curved leg would turn out like that? Not many, if any. You show me one.
You show me one.
You old bastard. Terrible design.
Fuck. Yeah, man, just mixing it up with these dudes building model trains. from my engineering perspective, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I know this is all scaled right, but the actual design of this is terrible, buddy.
Try again, Buster.
Have you even read the ARIMA manual?
That's all you do is just you're being provocative at model train shows.
And just have my big binder, my big spec book, just be like, right here, plain as day.
Yeah, walking around like
I'm
a fucking judge.
I'm shutting you down.
Take this apart, please.
I'm pulling the plug here. No more power supply for you.
We're gonna replace you with the next contestant.
Yeah, oh man.
We're calling somebody up from the minor leagues.
I would definitely be the Gordon Ramsay, you know that Lego Masters show?
Yeah.
I've watched like 5 minutes of it, but if they did that for model trains, like I would be like the Gordon Ramsay of that show.
Where are you, an idiot sandwich?
What the fuck is this? What are these track centers?
This is fucking raw.
Where's your yeah?
Well, anyway,
I wouldn't do that. I'm too whatever. I'm not gonna go.
You're not a goddamn psychopath.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's a couple more months of quarantine here and see if you're bored enough to go do that shit.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, anyways, we're just coming up on 2 hours. That's quite enough.
That'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. So anyway, yeah, that's our show, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that shit. And we'll see you next week.